On today's show, the NBA draft is on the way, and in a two-part discussion with Brian Schroeder, we talk about the bigs in this class. Part one's coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2240 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Wednesday evening into Thursday here in late May. And I want to encourage you at the top of the show, as I always do, Locked On Hawks, your first listen each and every day. Check out the podcast, subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. And I appreciate you being here as always. And today, I have a two-parter for you with my good friend Brian Schroeder, NBA draft expert, and it focuses heavily on the big men in the 2026 class. I'll probably do a few of these kind of positional capsule breakdowns between now and the big day, but center is always a talking point around the Hawks as they need to add someone to pair with Okongwu in the near-term future, and a good time to talk about this with Brian from top to bottom. So guys in the lottery, all the way down to second-round picks and flyers. And again, please stay tuned for part two when part one is finished in this same podcast feed. Will be available right away, so please subscribe, tell a friend, and here we go, myself and Brian on the bigs in this class. I'm joined now by an old friend of the podcast. Brian Schroeder is here. It's NBA draft season. I appreciate you being here as always. What's going on?
How's it going?
I asked you to take people behind the curtain. I will probably ask you to come on again because you're my go-to guy on this stuff. But I was thinking about the bigs. I was thinking about the bigs in this class, and I don't know if we're going to go through every single position between now and the draft, but there's a lot of talk. I can't remember when I decided to do this exact show, but people keep asking me about centers, and I get it. It's a Hawks podcast. There's the never-ending discussion about Okongwu's size or lack thereof, and even if people like Okongwu, like I do, I'm an Okongwu guy, they have to have another center anyway. So it's like a pretty natural spot to discuss.
It's not a center really, and
they don't have
is a mercenary.
Yeah, they don't have another long-term, even short-term option right now under contract without Jock Landale until if he comes back. I like Moguet. Moguet is more of a combo. Ace Newell is a 4, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the backdrop. Before we dive into some players, I am purposely not including Boozer and Wilson in this discussion. They're not. I mean, they will probably. I shouldn't say probably. They might play center at some point in their career. They're not big. Do you agree with that evaluation before we move on? I'm not including them in this discussion.
And more specifically, there's no way that Hawks are getting out of them. So
well, that too. But yes, I mean, combination of those. I wouldn't, even if this is not a Hawks thing, which it is. It will be a Hawks discussion. I would not include them on a list of quote unquote bigs. Even though they can both.
They're both in my my database. I have them there, but that's because I only have 3. I have big wing guard.
And that that's true. If I did that, I would probably have them in the big group as well.
They're both kind of unique. I mean, Boozer is just kind of a huge wing. That's sort of what he does. And Wilson is he's a center in the same way Jeremy Grant was a center when he came into the league, which is to say, not really. So I wouldn't. I don't think either of those guys is a center or will be a center for anything more than spot stretches. Maybe 5-6 years ago, Boozer could have been a center, but this is not the NBA where we are in a big man's NBA again.
I was going to say it's moving certainly more in that direction the last couple of years. Which is part of this too. And, I'm still firmly of the belief that Okongwu is a center and he's plays center and he's a good player. But I think having that other pitch to go to is something I've always kind of strenuously talked about. And the Hawks did try to go get Porzingis. They're not unaware of this. They did go out and make the move for the 7-3 guy.
Porzingis is he a center?
Well, he is defensively. I mean, offensively, he plays differently, but he's more of a drop big. I get it's a weird situation there, but
he's a unique player.
He is, and all that to say, there's a lot of interest in this class. The Hawks at 8, I think really I shouldn't say only have a chance to draft one center. I think there is a main player to discuss at 8, but they also could be a trade back team very easily, and they have the 23rd pick. and 23, they could be a trade up team from there. Like they're basically, their range is pretty wide in this draft. I think we have to start with Aday Mara because he is the guy who is mocked to them quite a bit. He is, for a lot of, I won't say everyone, for a lot of people at this point, is the highest rated center. Maybe if Jayden Quaintance had a clean bill of health, that might change. Morez Johnson's a favorite of mine. We'll talk about him in a second. But Aday Mara measures 7'3" without shoes at the combine with a 9'9" standing reach. We knew he was huge. He's even bigger than maybe people thought he was. And obviously had a heck of a close to the season. Like he was always kind of being the first round discussion the last several months, but really starting to rise. I know Hawks fans have been on this for a long time, but now like a consensus lottery pick in the way that he was not. I mean, even, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, however long ago we went back.
Part of that is, I think, a lot of the other, like Mo Crevis, those, like the other, a lot of the other huge guys who could have been first round picks went back. So like there's a little bit of a run on that kind of value, but it's also just that he started playing really consistently. Like,
yep,
the guy is. This is a very weird comparison, but the guy is the Khalil Ware of this class, and he has been for a while for me. Where one game he'll look like a top 10 pick, and then the next game he'll look like Michael Olowokandi, or like there's some guy who was destined to be a one contract guy out of the league. Where like, because he would have these games where he would just get pushed around by like Minnesota, and it's like he's not physical at all. Well, I would say he got better at it. That he would have these games where you had no physicality whatsoever, and it's like you can't play like that at 7'3", man. But I don't know if it's being with the Axel and Morez, or if it's just the way Dusty May coached him. But he really, or if it's residual Mick Cronin like PTSD, but he really took to it the last I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons they won the title, was that Mara was giving them every game was just outmatching his opposed, whoever was against him. And I mean, I would say he outmatched Tarris Reed in the he shut Tarris down when he was on him. And Tarris was having a great playoff run. So it was a great run for him. He's one of the most. I've talked about this before. One of the most, and I'm actually doing this now. I haven't put them into the big board yet, but I'm doing skill graphs for guys like octagon shapes. And Aday is one of the biggest strength weakness, like jagged, as I call it. Like if Keegan Murray was a 3 out of 5 at everything, he was a perfect flat circle, which is a great thing for a role player. Aday is like a big star, where his strengths are really strong and his weaknesses are really bad. But the thing is, I think his weaknesses are all pretty normal weaknesses for that kind of drop big. I think it's just tied the game. And he is the best, it's weird to call him rim protector, because I think Quaintance might be a better rotate over block shot kind of guy. At least he was at Arizona State. But Aday is just the best paint protector in this play. You're just not, if he's in drop and he's got his arms, he could cover the entire lane. It's just very difficult to just drive right at him. It's the Brook Lopez thing. If you just drive directly at him and go up, he's going to block a shot, or he's going to affect it. And he's also, I think he might be as good of a passer as it's possible to be without being able to dribble. He can dribble, but he's an incredible, Al Gasol style, just turn, face, fire passes kind of guy. He's a great bounce passer for a guy that big, which is a really weird skill to have. I think at the combine he proved he's going to be like Edey in a sense, where he's there's going to be some matchups where he gets in drop and the guys just take advantage of that and pull up on, like Shaq almost. There were matchups where it's one of the reasons Allen Iverson had that legendary finals game, was that Shaq just didn't want to come out to the level of the screen, and Allen Iverson was like, all right, I'll just take the 16-footer and just hit a bunch of them.
Yeah,
Marlon's gonna have games like that where there's going to be matchups, you play like the Brunson or somebody, is just going to eat on him. But I think he moves pretty well at the combine. The movement, he moved well enough that he's in that post Wemby thing where it's if Wemby didn't exist, you'd be like, wow, this 7'3" guy moves incredibly, but now he does. Right. So it's like, well, he moves pretty well, I guess. But yeah, I think there's a real I don't know if it's like Walker Kessler is like the type of big keeper, like Klingon maybe. I just don't think he's not as dominant in like as a rebounder as Klingon is. But I think I think teams are really starting to, I don't want to say talk themselves into, but believe in that this guy could be like the anchor of a really good playoff defense. And like at the top end, gives you like if he gets 11 points and 7 rebounds, that's fine. You don't need, he can be your Luke Longley or your trying to think of other like bigs from that era who just did as well, like like Cartwright, just like this huge guy who anchors the defense and rebounds his area and makes plays. And I think that the question is, does he become more than that? Because I do think the criticism he might face in this draft, which is a draft I think people were maybe unjustifiably talking themselves into, is like, oh, there's going to be 12 All-Stars.
Yeah.
Is he one of those guys? I don't know. But I also, there's a lot of guys in that area that may or may not have gone to the University of Tennessee. I would also have that question about.
Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, almost overflowing, and the one position you actually need to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure is on, you actually made the right hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. At Indeed, they help you actually reach people that you're looking for when it comes to skills, experience, location, etc. So you're not just hoping the right person actually finds your job, perhaps by accident, at some job post somewhere else. Here's stuff that says it all. In the minute I'm talking to you right now on this podcast, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, do not waste your time with searches. Instead, use your time wisely by interviewing candidates who actually check all the boxes that you want with Indeed sponsored jobs. That brings less time wasted, less stress, and importantly, it brings more results to the table for you. When you need the right person to cut through all the chaos of the job for Indeed sponsored jobs, and listeners to the podcast, we get $75 sponsored job credit. Actually helped you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. One more time, the place to go is Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. The playoffs are here right now. It's the most electric time in the basketball world. On KALSHI, you can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, and the championship. One of the two series that's going on right now is the Eastern Conference Finals between the Cavs and the Knicks. And right now, Cleveland is trading at 22% to beat New York. That means a $100 trade at KALSHI pays out roughly $455 if the Cavs can win the series and advance to the finals after being down 1-0 in New York. As the playoffs heat up, those numbers also move in real time. You can buy in or buy out at any point. And on KALSHI, you're trading against peers in the live market. That means there's actually no house. As the probability changes, you can buy in or out of your position. For a limited time, download the KALSHI app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. That's KALSHI, KALSHI, KALSHI trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk, may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. The bar at number 8 overall is not all-star anyway, which I know you know.
It should just be starter, or like
right, it is. I'm saying that I know that you know that, but it always comes out to that discussion, and I think he has all-star ceiling. That's totally fair to say. The Klingon comparison is making the rounds. I totally get why. Klingon, as you referenced, was a better rebounder for sure. I think Mara might move a little better than Klingon, which is probably helpful. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of discussion about Klingon's lack of minutes load in college. Same with Mara, but with Mara, it's like very clear why. They had Morez Johnson, so it's like they didn't need to play him 30 minutes a game, which was very obvious because Morez Johnson's the top 20 guy in the class. But no, there's so much to like about Mara. I think that the offensive side. Oh, the first thing you said, by the way, I 100% agree with. Like, it's been funny because I'm a Michigan guy. I've watched Aday Mara play like pretty much as many minutes as possible from this last season. And early in the year, like I understood it, but I was like, no, this is not a lottery pick. Like he was not, to your point, he was not aggressive enough. He was not consistent enough. It got there as the season went along. And it is worth noting he was a 5-star prospect coming into college. I know he had this very weird UCLA stint, but he was a real high pedigree guy coming in, and it took him a little while to get there. But when the light turned on and he was more aggressive, I mean, you can also see offensively, even the passing is probably the most like standout trait based on the size, but like the catch radius, the finishing late in the season was really impressive because he is just so massive. Like he can do some stuff there that a lot of guys can't do. And you're right that he can't dribble, but like he doesn't need to be able to dribble at that size. Most guys at that size can't dribble unless, again, Wemby.
No, but I do think that would be where I question the All-Star ceiling. Is like he's not gonna ever create his own buckets, and like
I mean, there might be some post up stuff, but not. You're right, not like high level. I don't think
it's just not a league. It's not a league where a guy gets enough post ups for that to translate to. Yeah. As much as I don't like to say it, you still have to be like 16, 17 points per game to be an all-star consideration. And
yeah, unless it's like Rudy. I mean, prime Rudy was maybe doing that. Maybe he was.
He was still 15, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, mostly. I'm just saying he's the only guy in recent memory that like didn't really do any creating. It was just all play finishing, and he was great at that. Obviously. I was going to ask you. There's been a lot of talk about the shooting. Like he made some threes late in the year. He took some threes.
Same thing with like, it's the same thing on Adam McClain and shooting. Like you should take a few of them, but I don't really care. I think his main value on the court is going to be maximizing his team's ability to get good looks while doing everything he can to stop the other team from getting looks in the paint. That's where he's effective. He's a paint player. He's going to be around in and around the paint on both ends 95% of the time. So, I mean, yeah, sure, shoot threes. It's more effective than, 15, 20 years ago. There would have been a little like elbow pick and pop David Robinson jumper. So if you're going to take that, you might as well just take 2 steps backwards and shoot the three. I'm fine with that, but like, I don't really care. It doesn't affect my.
No, I'm with you. It's like it's a sweetener maybe, but I'm not being like, oh, he's gonna take 5 threes a game. Like I don't really see that. Maybe he'll do it. I just don't think that's something you can project based on what we've seen so far.
No, it's not even like the way you could project it. Like if Brook Lopez was a prospect now, Brook Lopez would have shot a bunch of threes in college because Brook Lopez can shoot. He can always shoot.
He was always an offensive skill. That was his like appeal, was his offensive creation. Which it was in a different way early in his career, as I know you remember. But okay,
he was the number 1 post-up guy in the NBA for like 7 years,
and he's like the his whole game changed. So we could move on to other guys, but obviously the Hawks have the 8th pick. Is Aday Mara a reasonable 8th pick in this draft? That's a very plain question.
I've been there a few times. I think it depends on if like Mikel Brown falls for some reason, or if. I don't think they would take Acuff.
I kind of know. I keep saying people keep saying that, and I have said it too. I to be very clear, I have not heard that they are out on Acuff. I've not heard that at all. That's more.
I would assume if I was them, I would assume he's not getting days.
I agree. I said the same thing on a recent podcast. I was like, he's the one guy. I think him and Wagler are both going to be gone.
Probably.
I think that's my guess.
If he was there, I would take him. If Mikel Brown is there, I would take him. But those are guys I have tier 2. None of the other guys I have tier 2, I think consensus wise, like Cam Carr and Swain. Swain's getting some burn. I mean, they're both jumping up, but I don't think that the NBA values are around 8. Whereas Mara seems to really be valued there, and I think it's a good fit. Like,
yeah, the fit also makes sense. I mean, we'll save that for later because we'll talk about other players. But I think particularly with where the Hawks are, you could play Okongwu with him if you wanted to. That's doable. It's not like he is. I know they do want more size. That doesn't mean Okongwu can't play, but like he is the anti-Okongwu. Like he's literally as big as you get. And
he's the biggest guy. With one exception, he's the biggest guy in this draft.
Well, and I also know. I shouldn't say no. I strongly suspect. I'll cover myself a little bit that Quinn Snyder is partial to large centers. I think if you gave Quinn Snyder a true serum and said, "Would you like to have a 7'3" guy on the back end of your defense?" he would say yes to that. So he was kind of known to be a clinging guy. Obviously, he's never talked about that on the record because he can't. But like that was kind of out there in that draft, as I know you know. Not that he's the same as Mara, but like that's the most recent comparison is certainly Kling, I think. Or like the last handful of drafts, I think Mara and Kling are like the guys who will be compared to each other and with good reason. So yeah, I get it.
Kessler's a little smaller, but he's similarly just a massive dude.
Yeah.
And then
Well, and okay, so we'll move on. I promise. But like knowing what you know now about either Klingon or Kessler, you choose. Those guys are definitely like at least solid or better number 8 overall picks in the draft.
Yeah, I was too low on both of them, specifically Kessler. I think I was a little. I don't think I was slow, but I think I was still operating, especially with Kessler's draft, under the impression that the NBA just didn't have space for multiple bigs on the floor at one time, and like we do now.
The league has changed. Well, and
the league is changing.
He's probably going to get $30 million a year this summer.
He's gonna. I mean, part of it is that it's not a big free agent class, but
I mean, just obviously it's not quite this simple. But if you're going to get $30 million a year on your second contract, you were worth the 8th pick in the draft, basically.
Yeah. And honestly, if you're a second contract guy at all, you are a top 25 player in your class.
Yeah, usually.
If your second contract is anything more than like the minimum, I think it'll feel like you were successful. Now, some guys get those contracts like potential Hawk Jonathan Kuminga. That's mostly on. Even that, I thought he played fine. I thought he played well for them.
Kuminga did play well for the Hawks. I was about to say that's Brian Schroeder. Do not direct that comment to me. That was Brian said that.
No, he did play well for the Hawks, but like
he did.
A lot of the talk around him with the Warriors stuff was just like it was still like, well, he might be really good. It's like, well, are you going to pay him or what are you doing? Like the Hawks don't have that issue because they didn't draft him, so they don't have the sunk cost fallacy. They basically got him for free. So it's like, well, but like the Patrick Williams contract is another one. Like a lot of these guys get the second contract that maybe haven't played up to it, but those guys tend not to be centers. I feel like the centers wash in and out. Because there's the bar for backup center is so low that like we don't need to pay. It's always called the Kem Birch rule. Like, why would you draft this guy and give him a bigger amount? You just go sign Kem Birch to play 15 minutes a game, and then he'll be fine.
And that's kind of changed to some degree. Well, because the thing, I have this whole bit that I won't do now, but like I had this thought where basically I think there's like 6 or 8 or 10 guys in the league who are like obviously like 34-minute a game centers who are like basically stars or fringe stars. And then everybody else, if you don't have one of those, you got to have 2.
Yeah. And
that for me, that Okongwu is a starting center. Like he's a good player, but he's not one of those 8 guys. So like, it means you got to have 2. That's basically my thought. Like in an ideal world, Okongwu's playing 27 minutes for you at center.
And I think he's actually a really good fit with Mara because of the shooting is coming along, and because Okongwu is and always has been an absolutely excellent help side guy.
Yeah, they could play together if they need to, and I think that's part of the idea of the Hawks. If they were to go either use the 8th pick or a real trade / free agency piece on a center, is like, hey, you're not doing that to have him only back up Okongwu or only start in front of Okongwu. Yeah. The idea is to have a guy who can play with Okongwu, not a ton, but like for 8 minutes a game. Like it's not like just so that both guys can play 28, 30 minutes a game. And if you can't do that if they're only playing without each other. That's the
and if you do that, maybe when you go in the playoffs, you don't get your skull caved in by Michael Robinson.
Well, having more size makes a ton of sense. So that's the Mara conversation. We can talk about him forever. We won't do it anymore.
It's an obvious fit. It feels like this is a weird example, but this is the one that old Twitter heads will get. That like, do you remember for like 3 years it was like, hey, why aren't the Pelicans and Rockets doing this Ryan Anderson Omar Ashik trade? They both could use it, and then they finally did it way after they should have. So yeah, it does kind of feel like Mara to the Hawks is so obvious that the Hawks are going to be like, oh, we tricked you. But I don't know. I feel like he'd be a good pick. He does the things they need most, I think.
It's kind of out there now, and I get why. And I think if they love one of the guards, they will take one of the guards. Like honestly, it's not like
one of the guards.
It's not like they're definitely going to take Mara. I think that you know how Twitter goes. Like people are like, well, they're definitely taking Mara. I was like, no, I wouldn't say that at all. Like they might love one of the, they might love Wagler, they might love Fleming.
I would say the only definite pick is that Divasa is almost certainly going number 1. Other than that,
yeah, it's pretty open. I mean, obviously nobody's going to fall to them out of the top 4. We know that, but other than that, I think it's pretty wide open. All right, let's go.
I'll say this. I'll strongly hint that I I have a feeling that if any of those top 4 guys falls, they're not getting past 4.
No, the Bulls are going to take whoever's there. That makes total sense. Missed calls and slow follow-ups are killers for your business, and actually can be silent killers as well. That's how money gets left on the table, and that's how people don't even realize that actually is happening. That's why today's episode is brought to you by the folks at Quo. That's spelled Quo, and it's a smart way to have business communications built on that you actually never miss a call. Quo helps businesses keep everything in the conversation organized by letting your entire team manage calls and texts from one shared number. That means no more dropped messages, no missed opportunities, and no disconnected communication. It's designed for the modern businesses and honestly how they actually operate. One part I love about Quo is that everything lives in that one clean thread: calls, texts, voicemails, etc. The whole team actually see the whole conversation. Nothing actually falls through the cracks as a result of that. And the AI summaries can save serious time of logging calls, highlighting the next steps automatically for you. It makes your business feel more organized and more responsive at the same time. Money is on the line. Always say hello with Quo. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's quo.com. That's quo.com/lockedonnba.
You ever watch a game and think, man, those fans are probably going crazy right now? On Reddit, you're plugged into millions of fans who are just as hopeful, dramatic, analytical, and loyal as you are. Reddit is the app for authentic conversations about anything and everything. I covered the Dallas Mavericks, and as soon as Cooper Flag hard launched with his girlfriend, I went straight to the Mavericks subreddit because I had to see exactly what Mavs fans are thinking and saying about that. I also need to go anytime a call goes against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Go to the Thunder subreddit. You got to see what they're complaining about. Go check it out for any time a team gets kicked out of the playoffs or advances in the playoffs. It's incredible to have a real-time reaction from all these fans from all over the place. It's like the ultimate second screen. You're checking reactions, catching up on news, or just seeing how everyone feels about the things in the moment. And there's certain stories that are only going to be on the NBA subreddit because they're just niche and specific enough that only certain people care about it, and that's probably you. Reddit is where the real fans hang out. Download the Reddit app and dive into your favorite team or the Dallas Mavericks for hot takes, fresh memes, and a group chat that literally never sleeps. Download the Reddit app today.
All right, let's talk about some non-Aday Mara guys. And okay, I'll ask you. I don't want to lead the witness. I will ask you, is there any other big that you would consider at number 8?
Quaintance, if I knew what his knee was like, I think.
That is also my answer.
Quaintance has the explosiveness and the just the frame and like the suddenness to be somewhere between Duran and Bam, like defensively. And I think that's a guy who would go top 10, and like he's such a freak, like a freak mover, which is why the ACL is concerning because like he didn't look very good. He was really good in one game, and then he didn't look great in his other games. But he's 6'9", 260, almost 7'6" wingspan, and is like legit 1 foot run jump dude. He's a freak. So like he would go up high for me.
So if people don't know that much about Jayden Quaintance, just to say this out loud, like he was in Arizona State. Super young. He wasn't young. He couldn't declare, could he? Last year was that was the whole thing.
He's the same as Cam Loser.
Yeah, so he's super duper young. So 2-year college player, but like the youngest you could possibly be, basically. But also this year barely played. He just wasn't healthy. Had the ACL.
ACL near the end of the year in 2025. I don't even remember when it happened. It just came out. It may have been one of those things where it was a partial tear that just kind of nagged at him, and they sat him. But he had off-season ACL surgery and then committed to Kentucky and played 4 games. He came back a little too early, and it just wasn't right.
But also, like, was a guy that if he could have been in last year's draft would have been a potential lottery pick. Like his defensive ceiling is crazy if he's healthy, but if he's healthy is obviously a huge thing. So we're doing this a month plus before the draft. I haven't heard anything. Maybe you have. I haven't heard anything on the medical yet. Teams will know. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I've been saying for a while, if we knew, and we probably won't know for sure, but if we knew he was like 100% good, I think I'd still take him in the lottery somewhere. I probably wouldn't take him 8th, honestly, just because of we haven't seen it in a while. But he is a lottery talent for sure. If he's right, I think.
Yeah. Only thing I've heard is that the coming back too early was a push to get. He wanted to be in this draft. And then I've heard that he may have he could have played more, but it was like his camp, which is like, you're not ready. You're sitting, which could or could not be bad. I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff with dads in this draft class of like, controlling dads having too much say, Michael Porter, Patrick Baldwin style. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I'm not particularly worried. Never believes in him.
So I mean,
for a second.
There's a group here of, I think, if the Hawks trade down, which I think is possible, it's never what any fan wants to hear, but the Hawks are definitely a potential trade down team. They're willing to do that. They see the whole board. If they did that, I think, for me anyway, I think Quaintance, Morez Johnson, Hans Steinbach would probably be like the 3 trade down guys.
Yeah. Huh? I can see Steinbach being undervalued by the NBA too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's. I'm trying to think of guys who like wouldn't get to 23. Most likely, maybe he will. Like I know that there's also like there's a whole Chris Cenac hive because he measured incredibly at the combine and is really talented. He was not very good at Houston, I didn't think, but he's a talented guy. I totally get it. He did. He's the other one that's kind of a wild card. I mean, along with like, because I think Cenac could go like 15, and I wouldn't be surprised by the end of this whole thing.
I don't think 15, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I just mean in that range, not necessarily that pick. So if Quaintance is your next guy, if he's fully healthy, how do you kind of line up the Morez Johnson, Steinbach, whoever else you want to include there? Because Morez, I love Morez. Where's my hand? I love Morez. He's the one guy with my Michiganness maybe clouds my judgment a bit. I love Morez. I absolutely love him. I also have said I don't think he's an ideal fit for the Hawks because he's also kind of a smaller center, and they probably don't want to have 2 of those guys. But I also love him, so like I'm not going to downplay him. But who's your next guy after?
My other 3 first round grade centers are Steinbach, Morez, and Henri Veesaar in that order.
Okay.
So and
Veesaar is the guy that I think is pretty easy, potentially.
Yeah. The Steinbach, I think the question is he a center defensively? But he measured 6'10". He measured bigger than I thought because he's very kind of not. I joke about this sometimes, but then like the Filipowski, Kelly Olynyk range, where you look up these guys' comps, and the only guys who are 6'10" with a sub 7 foot wingspan are all goofy white dudes. And like Filipowski is one. But Steinbach got a 7'2" wingspan. I was a little surprised by that. I think if he hits, he's gonna be like a Vucevic style player where he might be best served with other bigs because he can really really handle the open court. He's got great hands. He's just finishes everything around the rim. If he like develops a little turnaround and like works that out to be like a actual shooter, there's some kind of all-star upside there because he's really very solid. He's one of those guys. I compared him. I think I may have done this with you. I've compared him to like a Jason Witten style tight end, where you're never like you're never getting these like breaking routes where he does the Colson Loveland thing and just goes 55 yards on the field. So you're never like blown away by him. Like Steinbach does not have a lot of power dunks. He doesn't like shoot off dribble. He won't have a lot of like really crazy. The highs are not very impressive, but then you look up every single game, it's like, oh, he's got 17 and 12. Kind of, he played pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same way that you look up and Jason Wood would be like 12 catches, 85 yards. Oh, all right. Well,
he has great hands too. Steinbach has great hands, like fantastic. Like he hoovers up stuff, and he's a weird one too because he gets the like combo big label because he's not really a defensive center. I don't think.
No, I think that's his issue. But the 7'2" wingspan impressed me a little more. But like I was expecting a 6'11" wingspan. So like,
no, and I should say, like when I say he's not a defensive center, like he might have to play center, and that just means that it won't be very good defensively. You know what I mean? It's like if he's your 5 defensively, you're not probably in the best shape on that end of the floor. But I do like him. I think he would pair well with Okongwu. They'd be interesting to play together. I just don't know if that like he get the lineups where he was like the only center, I would be a little worried about. Yeah. Well, he's I have him in a top 20. Like I think he's a good player. If he got to 23, I'd have to think about it a lot. Like I think it would be a good value in a vacuum. I don't like love the fit, but I'd be fine with it. Good player.
I think you'd have to take him there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Veesaar is honestly kind of another. He's a weird guy to classify for me. I had trouble with him because he's huge. 7 foot in shoes, 230, not a rim protector at all, and like not any kind of like he's just a weird player. He's not defensively. He's more of like a switchable guy and like a quickness guy at that size, which would make you think he's like this crazy athlete and like, but he's really like an under the rim finesse scorer and a big like hustle like garbage points guy. So he's like really productive and good, but he's a guy that I sometimes struggle to identify like what his elite NBA skills are, because he's not going to just like put the ball on the floor and beat people. He's not really a shooter.
But I mean, he shot it well this year, but just wasn't a lot of volume either. Like,
I had these same, to bring up Filipowski again, I think I had some of these same concerns with Filipowski, and like Filipowski is, I don't know how good he is, but he's been productive. Like he's definitely a guy who's going to get a second contract and like be around in the NBA. And like, I don't know, I'm becoming more and more of a frame and like tools guy with my centers. And he's not really that, despite being big. But I don't know, he's got a good little hook. He's got like just the ability to put the ball in the basket at a way higher level than you think. So I think he's a first rounder. I think he does enough stuff to like work his way into an actual like rotation, I think.
Well, there's a question that I don't have the answer to yet, and I'll be honest about that to the listeners. Like, I know the Hawks like to have shooting at center. We've seen that now. They targeted Porzingis, they targeted Landale, but they also went out and got N'Faly Dante, who doesn't shoot it. Like they're not 100% married to it has to be a shooter at center. That much I know. But how much they care about having true 5-out spacing is up for debate, because like it does help them team building wise with like Dyson Daniels, for example, who I love, but is not a great shooter, obviously, at this point in time. There's
if your offense is going to be run through Jaylen, I think you need at least two.
Yeah, and so that for me, like Veesaar is not like a knockdown shooter, but he can shoot. We saw that this year. He shot it pretty well. So can someone like do they want to make sure they have some potential to shoot? And I don't know the answer to that question. If it's Mara, it's less of a big deal. Like Lamar is so huge that that's not why you're going to get him. But if you're driving somebody at 23, that's not a dominant physical specimen, do they care that he can shoot or not? And I think the answer to that's probably yes. I just don't know the answer.
Well, the other question is Morez really a shooter? Because he might be.
All right, that is all for part one of this two-part discussion with myself and Brian Schroeder about the NBA draft and particularly the big men in this class. Part two is available in this same podcast feed right now, so please go ahead and go on over to that one, click on it, watch it, listen to it, etc., and please subscribe to this podcast anywhere you get your podcast. That includes Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Follow the show on Twitter /X@LockdownHawks. Follow me there at BT Rowland. Follow me on Blue Sky, BT Rowland, and also follow my non-podcast work about the Hawks at patreon.com/BT Rowland. All right, everybody, stay tuned for part two, and we'll see you all next time.